Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the meeting to order for Feb 21, 2023 for the Oxnard City Council. To order, roll call and posting of the agenda.
Councilmember Madrigal.
Here.
Councilmember Perrello.
Here.
Councilmember Teran.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem McDonald.
Here.
Mayor Zaragoza.
Here.
We have a quorum. Pursuant to Government Code, Section 54952.3, each member of the Housing Board of Commissioners present will receive $50 pay for convening this meeting. Posting of the agenda. The agenda for this meeting was posted in the City Hall Bulletin Board on January 30th, 2023.
Thank you. And now we're item B, public comments on closed items on the agenda. Any speakers on this item?
Mayor Zaragoza, we have no speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Thank you. Then item C, closed session. Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council will recess to a closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8 to give instructions to its real property negotiators regarding property located at 411 West Pleasant Valley Road. Agency negotiators are Emilio Ramirez, Housing Director, Ashley Golden, Assistant City Manager. Negotiating party is Yong Lee, Sue J. Lee, and Sue B. Lee. Under negotiation are price and terms of payment. The second property on closed session agenda is 451 West Pleasant Valley Road, and the agency negotiators are the same, Mr. Ramirez and Ms. Golden. Negotiating party is Norma Rushing. Under negotiation are price and terms of payment.
Excuse me, Mayor. Please let the record show Councilmember Basua has joined the meeting at 5:32 p.m.
Thank you. And we're going to close session and we'll be back at 6 p.m. for the opening ceremonies. Thank you. Okay, well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We're back from closed session, and before we go to the opening ceremonies, Mr. City Attorney, do we have any announcements from closed session?
No, Mayor, there are no reports out of closed session this evening.
Okay, thank you. Now we're opening ceremonies, and at this time, we are going to have a Pledge of Allegiance, going to be led by Mayor Pro Tem, and we're going to have a moment of silence. We lost a bishop, Bishop O'Connell, in Los Angeles just the other day. And also, we have a lot of earthquake victims over in Turkey, in that area, and a lot of other casualties that are really, really horrible. So we'll take a moment of silence after that. Mayor Pro Tem.
Please place your hand over your heart and join me in saluting the flag of our nation by saying, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Bless you.
Thank you so much. Okay. Our next item is item E. This is public comments on items not in the agenda, and I have some speakers here that I'd like to call. And we have Juan Magana, followed by Gary Davis. Juan Magana. Juan, welcome.
Okay. The reason that brings me here today is to share and communicate with you, members of the City Council, of an unsafe condition and situation that has existed for a long period of time around the perimeters of some schools. And that is the traffic problem that has put many of the students in harm's way as they come and leave the school. In addition, this has provoked parents to not respect the traffic laws due to the lack of attention to this problem. This traffic problem has been evident and known by many parents in our community, as well as some of the city officials and school officials for a long time. There may be justification reasons that this continues in a daily basis, but regardless of the reason, the safety of the students comes first. This traffic problem has also created constant worry to the parents, knowing that this condition is unsafe for the children and that someday a child will end up hurt. It has happened. I am an advocate of the students in many ways, so it is a duty of mine as a citizen to bring this to the attention to it may concern in order to protect and secure the safety of the students. No one can deny that there are laws, rules, and procedures to be followed for the students' safety, your sons and daughters. So that is why I am here today, to plead to all the city council members to take in consideration this problem so you can help find solutions and what can be done to resolve this unsafe traffic situation and to eliminate it completely. It is understandable, members of the City Council, that you have a mission and regulation to follow to make our city safe. So because of this, I am convinced that the students and the parents which represent this community will be very grateful and confident and trustful that the City Council members of Oxnard will make the right decision for the benefit of the students and our community. Your support will be greatly and fully appreciated, especially from the school bus drivers that have to deal with this traffic problem on a daily basis. This traffic problem has made the school drivers' job much harder in order to keep the students safe. My admiration and respect to all of them, since they have not failed the students and their parents doing the job in keeping the students safe as they transport them from one school to another.
Thank you, Juan. And our students are really, really important to all of us. And I know that Oxnard Chief of Police is working with the school district, and it's absolutely right. Councilor Perallo?
If you could leave your written comments, I think the council would appreciate it if you could leave your written comments with us. If you could leave the written comments that you read from?
Yes.
Yeah, keep living right there with our clerk. Thank you, Juan. I appreciate your.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And you can send that, give us all that information. Thank you. Our next speaker is Lang Martinez.
Mayor Pro Tem, council members, my name is Lang Martinez. I'm a homeless advocate. There was an article written in the BC Reporter. It actually went #1. The views on it they went all the way to the governor's office. I'm sure we're aware of what the governor said this morning when he made his announcement when he was on public radio. That'll be written up and that'll go out as far as he's kind of tired of this too. No accountability, money's being spent. Sort of relates to the article. I've been asked to go to, 2 weeks ago, I interviewed with the LA Times. I had on Vianney Lopez's office, Robert O'Reilly, and no comment. So you're all aware of the article. The article is called Transparency Needed for Resources Allocated for the Homeless. That article's been sent to everybody. And you guys all included, but we can't get a comment. So I've been asked by LA Times, one of the reporters said that they'll go out of their way if one of you will commit to be interviewed to discuss this with me present. So I'll be sending out emails to see if any one of you want to take us up on that invitation. It's a reporter from the LA Times. Thursday, there'll be another article going out. That'll be with a large publication. That'll be going out on Thursday, and it'll be followed up on Tuesday. We have a situation here in Oxnard and Ventura County of failures, complete failures. There's no accountability. There's no transparency. We don't know what you're doing. You know, on the 28th of February, project room key, home key, whatever key, I guess, I don't know if negotiations, I haven't been involved, I've been traveling a lot. I don't know if it's going to continue, or I do know that some of the homeless have already been hitting the streets. I'm aware of your situation down on Perkins that I think in March or whatever, we're going to be hitting that encampment, but let's talk about Halico, and let's talk about the comments that I made to the BC Star. I think I said this is redundant, they're going to come back. I kind of made a comment in 2 paragraphs, and not in all my articles or my publications, whether they're out of LA or if they're out of Fillmore or wherever, I've never once been wrong. Not once. Not one comment or one statement in any of my articles that showed me to be a liar or to misinform or be untruthful. Not one. I can't say that for you. So I was wondering, I did it one time with Mayor Tim Flynn when we were on Ormond Beach, and he was getting emails, and they said I couldn't do it. And I said, hey, Tim, can I get a commitment from you to go down on Ormond? Can I get a commitment from one of you gentlemen that we can do this with the LA Times, or you'll respond to my article? Can I get a commitment, or are we still going to get a no comment? Can I get a commitment? I didn't think so.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Gary Davis. Welcome, Gary.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor Zaragoza, City Council members, City Manager. I am Gary Davis, and I'm pleased to serve as Secretary for the Oxnard Performing Arts Center Corporation Board. Other members of that nonprofit organization are with me here tonight, and I would like to have them stand and be recognized. Thank you. Together, we have crafted a position statement which summarizes our continuing pledge to serve our great city and our aspirations for the future of the Oxnard Performing Arts Center. As a nonprofit public benefit organization, the Oxnard Performing Arts Center Corporation Board pledges its continued support for the operations of the Oxnard Performing Arts and Convention Center, and for the variety of artistic, cultural, community, and entertainment events and programs hosted on its campus. Should the City Council decide that it is in the best interest of our community to raise that complex and construct a new mixed-use campus, combining residential and commercial facilities with a smaller theater, then the OPAC Board wishes to continue its service to the city and to the community in that new venue. At this time, however, the OPAC Board believes that before a City Council policy discussion can take place, more information is needed about the current and future iteration of that campus through a study of the seismic study, a facility needs assessment, and a feasibility and market study. As a city-owned asset, we believe the responsibility for funding those actions lies with the City of Oxnard. This process would also benefit from a cultural development study to understand the visual and performing arts that the Oxnard community favors for the future OPAC campus. The OPAC board would appreciate the opportunity to participate in such a study. In the meantime, the OPAC board remains committed to serving the best interest of the Oxnard community and the residents of the OPAC adjacent neighborhoods. This means ensuring that the venue continues to be activated for all ages and that needed upgrades, modernization, and refurbishments are addressed. Such enhancements will improve the user experience, client satisfaction, and public safety, and help reestablish the OPAC as the artistic center of the Oxnard community. Mayor Zaragoza, City Council members, City Manager, we thank you for all you continue to do for the city. The OPAC Corporation Board looks forward to continued collaboration with city leaders.
Go ahead and finish it.
Thank you. To advance the vision of our nonprofit organization, which is to be a beacon and catalyst of advancing the arts, enhancing quality of life, and promoting cultural development. Thank you.
Thank you, and Gary, and thank you to your board too for being here today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Mayor
Madam
Zaragoza, we do not have any additional speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Okay, thank you so much. Our next item is item F. This is a report of the city manager, executive director, and we have one item, public works item number 1. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So let me have a couple of quick updates, and then I'll hand it over to the city attorney for the drought declaration. So there you go. Okay. So a couple of quick updates. There is one more community workshop to be had on February 27th from 8:30 a.m. till noon. This is for people to come learn how they can access utility bill assistance, and it's going to take place at 214 South C Street. This is in partnership with the Community Action of Ventura County. For more information, you can call them at 805-436-4000. So one more community workshop for folks to get help with their utility bills. Next is a reminder that on Tuesday, March 7th, there will be a special election to fill the vacancy for District 6 here in the city of Oxnard. And as such, we will not be holding the regularly scheduled council meeting that evening. For more information, people can go to venturavote.org. Again, that's Tuesday, March 7th. Special election for District 6 and no council meeting. Next, the airport. So the county airport is setting out to conduct noise studies, one for each airport, one for Camarillo, and one for Oxnard. They have public information meetings coming up. Right now, all we have are the dates. We don't have the locations yet. For the Camarillo Airport, it's slated for March 20. And for Oxnard Airport, it's slated for March 21st. The time and location will be announced soon by the airport district. Also, they are accepting applications for the Planning Advisory Committee for both noise studies, and the application is open through February 28th, the end of the month. And you can get more information there at their website, which is vcairports.org. And one more thing, for sake of history, Sunday was the anniversary of Executive Order 9066. So in 1942, President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066, which resulted in the incarceration of all Japanese Americans in this country. Interesting, as an outcrop of that, was formed the 442 Regimental Combat Team, which was a segregated Japanese American unit soldiers, and they were and still remain the most distinguished and decorated unit for its size and length of service in American military history. And then an interesting connection yesterday was the anniversary of the assassination of Malcolm X. And if, for those who are history buffs, if you look at the photo of that day, you will see Malcolm lying on the floor of the Audubon Ballroom, and he's lying in the lap of a Japanese American woman, Yuri Kochiyama, whose history, she came out of the internment camps, and her husband, Bill, was a member of the 442. So for any history buffs out there, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have our Public Works Director, and this is a consideration of local emergency due to the ongoing drought conditions. Michael?
Yeah, good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. A couple of cautiously optimistic pieces of information to share before this item tonight. We've got some preliminary indications from our state water project through the state. Their allocation may be in the 30% range. For perspective, the last 2 years have been 5%. Also, Callegas, who is our Met member agency that represents Oxnard plus several other cities here in Ventura County, took a resolution to their board, I think it was last week or may have been the week before, again, cautiously optimistic about reducing some of the regulations as associated with 1 day a week watering. They also went from a stage 3 down to a stage 2. So staff still recommends that Oxnard continue with the emergency proclamation. Our biggest hurdle will be what MET does, Metropolitan Water District does, and also what the State Water Project declares. They usually do their official declaration in terms of their allocation in April. So wanted to share that information.
So Michael, so they're recommending twice a week, but we're staying at one time.
Well, they are actually, what they say, what Callegas has done is they are no longer enforcing the 1 day a week watering restriction. However, that means that everybody in Callegas now defaults to what's called Path 2, which is a volumetric requirement. So we are still subject to penalties if we go over a certain volume. So again, they're triggering, or Callegas is looking forward of what MET may do next month. All indications are that MET may reduce some of the regulations, and then we would follow thereafter.
So we were at a cumulative total. If we go beyond that total, then it's a penalty.
Correct. I think it's still $2,000 an acre foot, which is quite a bit when you think about 25,000 acre foot roughly was what we produced, 21 to 25,000. So quite a bit of money if we go over in penalties.
Okay, real good. So then, Mr. City Attorney, we need a resolution here to confirm in this item.
Correct. This is the resolution that the council needs to consider to confirm the need to continue the local emergency that was declared back in May of last year.
And this item is not part of CEQA then, correct?
No, there's a specific exemption for emergency type measures.
So we need a motion to.
Unless there's any discussion, I'll make the recommended
Okay.
motion.
Moved by Councilman Perrello, second by Mayor Pro Tem. Please vote. Oh, any speakers on this item?
Mayor Zaragoza, we have no speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Okay, so we have first by Perrello, second by Mayor Pro Tem. Please vote.
Motion carries 6-0.
Okay, thank you. Our next item is council members. At this time, any members of the council would like to make some announcements or to share if they want any items about in future agendas in 3 minutes. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sure almost everybody knows that as council members, we all have extra duties that we do throughout the county and sometimes throughout the state. So this is a quick update on my extracurricular duties. I've taken over as the chair of Ventura County Transportation Commission for the next year, which is a municipal planning organization. We also do airport land use consultations or decisions. I've stepped down from the chair of Gold Coast, but I'm still on the board. And I've just been reselected as the vice chair of the Los Angeles Regional Rail Agency, which is the Amtrak Pacific Surf Line. And I'll be moving hopefully into the chair position next year on that.
That runs all the way to Santa Barbara?
San Luis Obispo to San Diego. So if you want a nice train ride, Amtrak Pacific Surfliner is the way to go. Spend a few extra bucks, get business class. It's a great trip down to San Diego and back up to San Luis Obispo. So,
By the way, that's a really good representation that we have for the city of Oxnard. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Okay, Councilor Perella.
Thank you for the public speakers. I've attended a few board meetings for agencies that I serve on, and I've attended a couple of neighborhood council meetings, but all of them were very good, very informative. It's great to see the presentations and the representations from the various neighborhoods that I've been able to attend. I'd like to share this with the council. I had an opportunity to, and it's very unique for me because it doesn't happen that often, some birthday parties over this last weekend. One for 85 years old, one for 30 years old, and one for 3 years old. The unique thing about this is it gives you a taste. I happen to be 72. It gives you a taste of where, people are in the stages of life and what they have expectations to look forward to, and the decisions that you make as a council member with the fellow council members, how it can impact people's lives. Was a good wake-up call, a good bit of information and give and take. Good time. I'd also like to make an announcement. I've been asked to make it on behalf of disabled American veterans. They have a golf tournament. It's sponsored by the Ventura Elks, number 1430. It's the second annual golf tournament for the disabled American veterans. It will be held on May 7th, Sunday, at the Levis Links Golf Course. The registration deadline is April 30th, and I'm told it's a good time. I'm not a golfer, but it's going for a good cause. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Sewell.
I don't have anything.
Councilor Madrigal.
Thank you. Just a quick comment. I had the privilege of doing a week early, but doing Read Across America today. I happened to go to Bricky School, Kamala School, and Soria School. So I spent my morning reading to second, third, and fourth graders. It was a wonderful experience. Hats off to all to the schools, to the teachers doing a wonderful job, and to the young children, some of which are actually know a lot about streets. And I'm gonna get a big letter concerning some of the issues down in the Kamala neighborhood along with Beck Park. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Matron.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of quick announcements. Thanks also, as Councilmember Perello had said, thank you to the speakers who came, including the board for the OPAC. I have a couple quick things for neighborhood councils. Sierra Linda had their meeting last week, or was it the week before, excuse me, and the city manager was the featured presenter, and it's a really good turnout. I think they had about 30 residents come out, including the school board trustee Rose Gonzalez, who oversees that area, and then Mr. Wolf from Public Works presented as well. And really good meeting, and I appreciate all the folks who came out. And on February 22nd, which is tomorrow, Wagon Wheel Neighborhood Council will be meeting at their usual spot. The following day, Thursday the 23rd, River Park and South Bank will both be having their meetings on the same evening as well. And I believe River Park is at 6 and South Bank's at 6:30. And You can look at the weekly packet or request it to get more details on the agenda. I'd also like to share that I've spoken with the District 2 Neighborhood Council chairs, and we will be holding a District 2 Town Hall meeting on March 22nd, which is a month from tomorrow. And we will be focusing on the city manager's presentation, actually, that was presented to the Sierra Linda neighborhood and other neighborhood councils, which is really focusing on the disparity around job opportunities, advancement for careers, educational attainment for residents in the city of Oxnard. And some very, very important data points and items for discussion come from that. So I encourage folks to go out to see it if at your neighborhood council, and if you are not able to make it, on March 22nd, we will be having it for a larger audience. It will be 6 p.m. March 22nd at Rio Vista Middle School. And so a flyer will be forthcoming for that, and I appreciate the neighborhood council chairs for District 2 for being willing to help promote that to their neighborhoods, and I'm happy to provide that opportunity for them to have folks come out and see that information. And those are my comments, Mayor. Thank you.
Commissioner Andrade, do you have any? No, thank you. I'd just like to share that I attended the Air Pollution Control District in the County of Ventura. We're meeting in person now, almost all those agencies, and now I'm the chairman of APCD also, just for information. Also attended the LAFCO meeting at the Government Center, and also the Ventura County Animal Shelter in the County of Ventura. Also had to do a lot of driving this last week. Also this morning, it was an honor to attend the Family Justice Center here in Oxnard with our DA, Eric Nazarenko, our Chief of Police, Benitez, was there, and also our sheriff and numerous other people. We had, Jason, maybe 7,500 people there this morning. It's a 2-day event, and this is really looking forward to the Family Justice Center here in Oxnard that's really going to serve the underserved community. And I think it's really, really great that our DA is really taking handle of that. And of course, our Chief of Police, is really involved in the committee that's putting this Family Justice Center that's really going to help the underserved community here in Oxnard. So it was a great week, and so forth. And my understanding that it's going to rain pretty hard this week, starting probably Wednesday, Thursday, and they say the snow is going to be down to about 1,000 feet. So potentially, last time we had snow, we're about 300 feet, but last time we had snow in Oxnard was in 1949. I wasn't even born yet. Okay, no speakers on this item.
Mayor Zaragoza, we have no speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Okay, thank you. Our next item is City Manager Department. This is appointment of members to serve on the CAGs. And the recommendation that the mayor, with the approval of the city council, make the following appointments. 1, a senior service commission, Clark Owens for District 1. The Community Relations Commission, Helene Stallone. D1, Tiffany Lopez at large. And also the Cultural Arts Commission, Theodore Lopez, District 1. And also the Parks and Rec Community Commission, Miguel Fernandez, D1. And to the Planning Commission, Steve Nash, D1. Council members, any
Number one, the majority of these are District 1 representatives. I want to thank each of them, and I want to thank the others that served and could not continue on. But again, I'd like to remind the public, these people serve on their own dime. What that means, they don't get gas money, they don't get coffee. Someday there will be an opportunity, I think, when things change in the future, they can be given something other than a thank you. But I really appreciate the opportunity to have these people serve and benefit the people in the city of Oxnard. There's a lot of people that benefit from these people, from the activities and the work these people put in, and they don't realize it. But if there's no other comments, I'd make the motion to approve this.
And second that. Please vote.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
call for public comment.
Public comment?
Mayor Zaragoza, we have no speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Thank you. Okay, please vote. Thank you.
Motion carries 620.
Okay, thank you. Our next item is the review of the information consent items, and we have items 1 to 6. Before we continue, do we have any speakers on this item, Madam Clerk?
Mayor Zaragoza, we have no speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Okay, council members, we have items 1 through 6. Councilman Perrello,
I'd like to discuss 5 and 6, please.
5 and 6.
Mayor, I just have a quick announcement regarding item J3.
And J3.
Yes, I will have to recuse myself from that specific item due to a previous collaborative work I've done with Reality Improv Connection and a business relationship they had with my former employer. And so I just wanted to state that for the record, that I'll be recusing myself from that particular vote on J3.
Okay. And council members, any other items? If not, Council Perrello, 5 and 6.
On, excuse me, on number 5, I support the measure, but I'd like to speak specifically on measure 2. We had individuals from the OPAC speak in public comment, and item number 2 on this agenda item, J5, it states, approve the following Measure O project with associated one-time funding, Tier 2 seismic evaluation for the Performing Arts Center, $200,000. And there's a presentation in the staff report why. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been one issue that has been ongoing. There is needs for things to be improved in the PAC. We all understand that. I'm aware specific issues because I served on the PAC board when the city had membership on that board. One of the issues were increased safety. And if we do more safety, we have to deal with the asbestos in the roof. But when it came that information was not available about the last time the thing had been evaluated for earthquakes, and anybody that's taken the opportunity to see the tragedies that have gone on in Turkey and Syria, of what can happen quickly, that has been one reason I have not been willing to go forward with any activity on the PAC until we get an answer on the earthquake. This is going to get us partially there, find out the condition it's in, and then the council will make a decision, what do we want to do when we know what it is? Because I've said it before, I'll say it again tonight. When we have a full house for the great performances that present themselves, 1,600 people. If the roof were to cave in, that's a lot of funerals, a lot of funerals. And if we don't take care of business, making sure that it's safe, we're not doing our duty as elected officials. So I'm very happy to support this item.
You will support it?
Yes.
Okay.
And
item 6?
On number 6, this has to do with the general banking services, and I appreciate the report, but I just have one question with respect to one of the last paragraphs. It talks about the 2 finalists for this job were very qualified. I'm reading directly from the report. Very competitive, familiar with the government cash management process. Bank of America was chosen through, and this is my concern, an evaluation process that included a panel of city staff from various departments. I think in the future, it would benefit the public to know the departments and who was involved, because people will ask the questions and they will imply that there's something fishy going on. I know and trust everybody involved. There's no funny business going on. But I'm asking because I've been asked this in the past. Do we know the city staff and the departments that were involved in the process?
Mr.
And that's
Molina.
my question.
Mr.
And again,
Molina.
no complaints, but I just think as Mr. Molina has been very vocal about transparency, I think this would help in the transparency of our city. That's my question.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
Councilman Perillo, yes, thank you very much. It's with a happy heart that I bring this to you this evening. We started this process in late 2020, so it's been a while getting here. In that process, we had the opportunity of working with many departments and many staff members, and to that end, having been given a heads up, I appreciate that, I asked the person who would best be able to answer that question to be here. Jennifer Yates, our purchasing manager, will be able to answer your question.
Jennifer, welcome.
Thank you. Hello, council members, Podium, Mayor. My name's Jennifer Yates. I'm the purchasing manager. We did go through an evaluation process, which consisted of a representative from our finance division, Mark Sewell, who's the assistant finance officer. We had two representatives from our billing and licensing, Eden Alamari, who's our assistant billing and our treasurer, and Martha Guerra, who also works in billing and licensing as a supervisor. We did have Helen Miller, who's our chief information officer, who helped develop our RFP from an information technology standpoint, but unfortunately, due to conflict, she was not able to finish and be on the evaluation process.
Thank you very much. That's helped me, and I'm hoping that the people that have asked me questions are watching this or will review it, because I think that information is important, and it adds to our transparency on these types of reports. Thank you. Thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, may I add something, given the opportunity?
Go ahead.
Both Jennifer and I think as perhaps the council, was concerned that out of 8 emails and advertisements that we sent out to 8 different banks, we only received 2 responding RFPs. And to that end, Jennifer and I have been working to find out why didn't the rest of them respond. And we sent out emails to the other 6, and asked them why didn't they respond. We did receive 2 responses back so far. I'm not sure I want to tell you which bank responded, because one of the responses was, oh golly, the person who was supposed to receive that information was on vacation and we just missed it. Kind of like, that bothers me when you get that kind of response. But we are trying to make sure that if there was any issues, that it's brought up so that we better prepare next time. We did have a meeting with one of the local banks. It was a very good meeting, and they expressed what their concerns were. And basically had to do with the fact that we require that the banks have an office in Sacramento. And there have been in the past certain federal and state grants that want to have a relationship with the Sacramento branch. And to that end is why we put it in. But we'll review that requirement again. And if it's not necessary, we may be able to not include it. We want to make sure, however, that within that 3-year period, by including or excluding it, we don't inadvertently exclude our ability from getting grants at the state level. And thank you very much for the opportunity to bring this transparency to you. Thank you.
Thanks for the information.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Any additional comments? If not, we need a motion on this item 1 to 6, and Councilman Taranix recused himself.
Mr. Mayor, maybe we can pull Councilmember Tran's item out and vote separately on that.
Okay, we'll pull it then and go ahead. Let's vote on all this item except for Taran on 3.
No public comment. Public comments?
Oh, there was no public comments. I heard that initially. So please vote on those items, 6, and then we'll vote on 3 separately. Okay, so.
Motion carries 6-0, and I do have a note. Councilmember Turan has recused from voting on item J4, and also consent agenda item number 4 includes our housing authority commissioners. Commissioner Andrade, what is your vote on consent item J4, please? Thank you. He voted yes. So for item J4, the motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Turan.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for the record, so we can proceed on this, I believe Mayor Pro Tem had requested J3 be separated out. So we just voted on everything except J3, and then J3 will be a separate vote right now. Is that correct?
Okay, let's go with this motion.
Okay.
That was my
That was
request,
motion. Let's
yes.
go ahead and vote on 3 then. Except for Trump. Okay.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Mr. City Attorney, we're okay with that? Okay.
Yes, I just wanted clarity on who made the second on the motion.
Perrello.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so our next item is K1, and at this time and place is set for a public hearing on item K1, Housing Department. Subject, adoption of the annual action plan for fiscal year 2022-23 and amend the annual action plan for fiscal year 2021-22 and 2020 and 2021. The recommendations of the City Council: 1, conduct a public hearing and receive comments related to the substantial amendments to the fiscal year 2020, 21, 22, 23 annual action plan. 2, approve the substantial amendment to the fiscal year 2020, 2021, 22, and 23 annual action plan, reallocating community development block grant, coronavirus, and home investment partnership funding. 3, authorize the city manager as designee to execute the required applications, certifications, and other pertinent documents for submission to the amendment to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. 4, authorize the city manager as designee to execute and appropriate agreements and subgrantees to adjust any of the funding activity not to exceed 10% if the programs require more or less funding to meet the objectives. And 5, authorize the city manager as designee to incorporate any recommendations, changes resulting from the public input, each of the aforementioned plan, and direct the city council, including amending any grant revenues or expenditures budgets reflecting the allocation described in 22, 23, and 2020, 21 mid-year budgets. And we'll start off with the city clerk's certification of publications and any written communications, if any. Madam Clerk.
Mayor Zaragoza, there was a legal notice for this public hearing published in Vida newspaper on January 19th, 2023, and the city clerk's office did not receive any written communications for this item.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk. And members of the public are invited to sign up to speak on this item on the city website or in person. If you did not sign up now, you can do so by following instructions posted on the agenda for this meeting at the city's website, oxnard.org, city meetings. The Housing Department Grants Manager, Andrea Palmer, in accordance with Measure M, posted a video presentation regarding this item, and Director Ramirez is available right now to answer any brief clarification questions council members may have before we take any public testimony. City Council members, any deliberation on this item before we go into this item? Council members, no? Okay. So do we have any members of the audience that'd like to speak on this item?
Mayor Zaragoza, we do not have any public speakers so far for this public hearing, virtually or in person.
Okay, so we open the public hearing. So speakers have 3 minutes. There's nobody speaking on this item. So therefore, then I'm going to close the public hearing. Council members, any questions on this item? None at all. So we need a motion on this item.
I will move the recommended action.
Okay, moved by Councilman Basua.
Second.
Second by Councilman Turan. Please vote.
Did you vote? Uh-oh.
Okay, so you want to do it again? Okay. Please vote. Well, Councilman, can we take a
I'm going to do
verbal
it.
vote?
Thank you.
You lost his connection there.
Mayor Zaragoza?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem McDonald?
Yes.
Councilmember Perrello?
Yes.
Councilmember Madrigal?
Yes.
Councilmember Turan?
Yes.
Councilmember Basua?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. Our next item is that was easy. Our next item, this is reports. This is the Finance Department in the fiscal year 21-22 annual comprehensive finance report and summary presentation. And the recommendation, the city council receive the fiscal year 2021 comprehensive annual financial report, CAFR, and summary presentation from the city external finance auditors, Edie and Payne. And we do have, again, this is also, was sent and presented to the Finance and Governors Committee.
We have, Mayor, we have online Eden Casareno from Edie and Payne. She's our auditor.
Okay. Who is it again?
Her name is Eden Casareno.
Oh, Eden.
Eden Casareno.
I know, okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Eden. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Zaragoza. Thank you, everybody. Good evening again. I have presentation slides that I asked somebody at the city to.
Yes, we have it.
We have it.
Diego will put them up momentarily. There you go.
Thank you. So it's my pleasure to present to you tonight, our audit report for fiscal year June 30, 2022. This report has been presented to the Finance and Governance Committee last week. And so most of these gonna be repeating what I had presented there. But if you have any questions or clarifications or other items that you wanted to discuss, I'll be ready to discuss them if needed. So let's go to the next slide, please. So I wanted to talk about our independent auditor's opinion, some significant audit matters, and some highlights from the audit report or the financial statements that were presented to you today. Also, we'll have some discussion of the general fund group, its revenues and expenditures. At any point in time, if you have any questions, just feel free to stop me and we can go over them.
Eden, just for information, as we mentioned at the governance committee, can you hear me? Yeah. I just wanted to share right off the bat, you know, that you're going to share quite a bit of information, but the important thing here is that we had a clean opinion, and that's really, really important for the public to understand that this independent auditor's opinion is that we had a clean opinion and report in this item. So I just wanted to share that before we start. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So you are correct. You have a clean opinion on the financial statements that were reported to you for June 30, 2022. So that report is included on pages 1 to 4 of the annual comprehensive financial report, or ACFR for short. A clean opinion means that your financial statements are presented, generally speaking, in accordance with the generally accepted accounting principles. So those are the accounting principles required for governmental entities like yourself. So a clean opinion is the best opinion that you can get. Many years ago, you did not have a clean opinion, which is
That's
always
correct.
like
That's correct.
so now that you've had it for many years, it seems like it's a routine thing. But just remember, like way back in the past, you had some what we call modified opinion, which are not good.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Thank you.
So before I get into the significant audit matters, I just wanted to thank everybody in your finance department, those who were involved in other departments as well, like utility billings, public works, attorney's office, city manager's office, human resources, HR, housing, all of them, everyone in the city actually participated in presenting the financial statements. So it's not just the finance department. But obviously, the finance department has a lot of, input in it, and they put a lot of effort into it. So thank you. So let's talk about significant audit matters. There's a few things here in the slide. One thing that I wanted to always talk about is accounting estimates. Accounting estimates are important in any audit, and we are required to explain to you what they are. Management makes certain estimates in the preparation of the financial statements. So you might think that all of the numbers that are in your financial statements are accurate and 100% true. Sometimes there's estimates. So estimates are approximations of a financial statement item. And the estimates are made because sometimes the accounts are uncertain and there could be future events that could change that might impact that amount that's included in your financial statements. Let's give you an example. One is allowances for doubtful accounts. So allowances for doubtful accounts is an estimate of the collectability of accounts receivable or loans receivable by the city. So in the future, when management makes an estimate like that, they look at historical experience, for example, or any information that might lead them to anticipate that some of the accounts or amounts in your receivables may not be collectible. Like, say, for example, there's like a bankruptcy process that's going on with one of your customers. Then that would be an information that will be considered when considering the collectibility of your receivables. So sometimes the amounts that are included in your allowances may be collected after the fact. Like, say, for example, after bankruptcy process, you're actually able to collect some of the allowance, some of the amounts. So that would be a pretty much like a gain to the city. Sometimes it's the opposite. So those that you think that you are able to collect are actually not collectible. So that's what I mean by being an estimate or approximation. Pension and OPEB are other, they are estimated based on actuarial assumptions that are related to, say, for example, inflation or investment return or rate in payroll salary increases, for example. So those are based on assumptions that are made by an actuary. So again, those assumptions could change over time. Self-insurance claims are also actuarial valuations. So again, similarly to pension and OPEB, the assumptions, whether those claims are actually payable or not, are also estimated. Depreciation expense and accumulated depreciation are based on estimated useful lives of capital assets. And in the same way that all the other estimates may change over time, your estimate of the useful life of a vehicle, for example, is 5 years, but then it crashes into a post, and then the useful life is actually less, right? So all of that is something that you need to understand are within your financial statements.
Eden, I know that I think our public works director said we had about 40-some, 100-some buildings that belong to the city. Some of those buildings or some of those assets are already fully depreciated. So the new ones and all the others are all part of the accumulated depreciation regardless?
That's correct. So if it is still being used, then that is still included in the cost of your capital assets and accumulated depreciation that is equal to the cost. Even if it's already fully depreciated, it is still part of your capital assets because they're still being used.
And that's considered under the depreciation expense account, yeah.
Correct.
Look, thank you.
Thank you for that question. So leading on to the significant disclosures, some of the items that I think are very significant when you're reading the financial statements is the deficit fund balances on page 108. There's actually like 6 funds that have deficit fund balances, and all of these are internal service funds. 2 of those funds are general liability and workers' comp liability funds. The result of that is, the fund balance deficit resulted from implementation of conservative assumptions in the past. So, like I said, okay, assumptions are always something that you will encounter in your financial statements. And this is one of the causes of that, is that if your assumptions are conservative, you could have like either a positive or a negative effect on your fund balances. So the city plans to replenish those reserves over several years. There's other deficits due to accounting pronouncements. When the GASB said that, you have to now record a liability for your pension, a lot of some of your funds, including the ones that are in your internal service fund, had deficits because you had to record the liability for pension and OPEB. And that is not unique to the city of Oxnard. That is true for a lot of governments. Pension and OPEB related disclosures, these are the longest disclosures really. Starts from page 109 to 130. So it's a very long discussion of the assumptions, the funding mechanisms that are included in CalPERS, as well as other plans that you have. Those are all there. So something to read when you have some time. Commitments and contingencies are also included in there, page 133 to 134. This discusses the litigations that you have, the significant ones. I'm sure you have a lot of other litigation going on, but these are the significant ones that were reported to us by the city attorney's office. There's, I think, 6 items, including the Measure M litigation, the infrastructure use fee litigation, and other things. Sorry, those are all under risks and uncertainties. I got that incorrectly. Commitments and contingencies are related to construction commitments and encumbrances. Okay, so on page 4 now, some of the significant audit matters that I wanted to discuss as well are challenges encountered during the audit. As you know, we have a slight delay in issuing our report this year. Instead of December, we were supposed to issue it in December, but we issued it in January, and now we're just reporting to you. Nothing really big. It's just, last year the city was implementing the ERP implementation of this ERP system while we were doing the audits. So that caused a little bit of delay. On our part of EDN Payne, we had some staff turnover. So that caused a little bit of hiccups as far as transitioning from training our own people into the new team. So that was something that was on our end. Audit adjustments. So we have some audit adjustments this year, and I think those were mainly related to capital assets and I believe pension. And then we also have all of those adjustments were corrected by city staff except for two. So there's two adjustments that were passed. One of them was the understatement of lease revenue of $199,000. Not a big deal. It's below the threshold that we set where we can say you can't pass on this because it's too high. So it's below that threshold. This is due to the implementation of a new GASB pronouncement for leases. So it was just something that we have to fix from here on out. And then there's an adjustment for $975,000 that was not recorded in the water fund. This is an estimate of an accrued liability. And again, we believe this is below the threshold where we would say you have to post it. So the reason for not posting it is because it was discovered like really close to when we were already going to issue the report. So we decided to not make the adjustment, but it will be adjusted for fiscal year 2023. As I had mentioned, we had found other adjustments that needed to be made. They were all corrected by management, and none of them are material individually or in the aggregate to the finished statements. So,
good.
Not a. There was a new accounting pronouncement that was implemented by the city that was GASB 87 on leases. So that resulted in a recording of lease receivable of around $600,000 and a deferred inflow of around $800,000. So
Eden, excuse me, GASB 87 has been around just recently, right?
Yes, that the 2022 is the first year that it's supposed to be implemented. It had been issued maybe 4 or 5 years ago, but they had moved the implementation because people were, complaining that it's too complicated and all of that. So, I mean, it is still complicated, but the city was able to figure out the leases that you had. So what it is really is the GASB requires now that leases are considered financing vehicles. So when you enter into a lease, like if you are a lessee, then you have to record the liability for the entire duration of that lease. If you were the lessor, you have to record a receivable for, again, the present value of the lease payments that you are going to receive in the future. So pretty much they put it in the balance sheet rather than where it was before, where you have to just record the income and or expense. So now it's part of your balance sheet.
Thank you.
Internal control report. So tentatively, we will be issuing this report in March of 2023. But I want to say right now that we did not find any internal control findings in fiscal year 2022 audit of the financial statements. So the report that will be released in March will be included in the single audit report. The single audit has not been completed. That one is relating to the federal awards that you received and expended. We have not completed it yet, so I can't tell you whether we will have findings there or not. But as far as the financial statements, we don't have one. So that's very good. So slides 5 to 8 will focus on the city's financial position over the long term. So as you know, the ACFR includes 2 sets of financial statements. One focuses on the long-term financial position of the city. Those are called the Statement of Net Position and the Statement of Activities. The fund financial statements, which are called the balance sheet and the Statement of Revenues, Expenses, and changes in fund balances for all the funds of the city, are based on like a short-term perspective. So it doesn't include capital assets, which are long-term assets, and long-term debt, which are long-term liabilities like pension, bonds payable, and compensated absences. So these graphs here on slide 5 represents the government-wide financial statements. So this is located on pages 25 to 27 of the ACFR. They are designed to provide a broad overview of the city's financial statements, finances, similar to a private sector business. The focus of these statements to report all financial resources and obligations of the city. So as you can see here, if you look at the net position in 2022, $2.3 billion, as compared to 2021 net position of $2.2 billion. That is an increase of 65 million. So an increase in net position means that the city's financial position is improving over time. Sometimes your net position could go down, or sometimes it could go up. This year it did go up, and that was, and I'm gonna go over some of the factors that that led to that. Your liability, your assets and deferred inflows to the right, okay. That increased by $54 million from last year. And then your liabilities and deferred inflows of resources decreased by 10 million. So that's why you have an increase in net position by $65 million.
Okay.
So I will go over some of the reasons for that, some of the factors that led to that. But I would like to point out that in the ACFR, there's a very detailed discussion, which is called the management's discussion and analysis of, the variances from year to year, what led to those. It's located on pages 5 to 24 of the ACFR. So the revenues of governmental activities is on page 6. So most of the increase in the net position of the city came from governmental activities. So general revenues increased in total by 50 million, or about 30% from last year. Sales tax was one of the things that went up a lot. This one actually, in prior year, it was only 27% of your total revenues. So now it's 39%. It actually flipped over from, property tax used to be the biggest one at 32%, but now it's only 26%. So obviously the measure E was the responsible, the culprit for having more sales tax this year.
Well, that's a good culprit, right?
Yeah, it is. It is very good. Almost double than what it was in 2021. So that was a good thing. There was also a modest increase in property tax, though. So I wanted to point that out because of higher property tax assessments. There's also an increase in operating and capital grants and contributions. This is where you had received, COVID funds, or the ARPA funds was one of the biggest things there. There was a little bit of decrease in charges for services and a little bit of decrease in other income. Other income, although that has always been the lowest percentage ratio, compared to the others. Other income this year went negative because of the change in fair value of your investments. So in 2022, investments didn't really look, they didn't actually have losses. So, and I think that is just indicative of the general economy anyway. I think all of us lost on our investments. So, so moving on to the next page. Expenses for governmental activities decreased by $4.5 million. Most of that decrease is coming from pension expenses. So pension expense, it's a little counterintuitive, really. Pension expense decreased because the valuation of your pension liabilities are based on a year behind. So they are not looking at 2022, they're actually looking at 2021 fiscal year. So in fiscal year 2021, the plan experienced a large investment return. So compared to what it is now, it's this month. But so that increases or decreases the pension expense. That increased your plan assets. That means the liability went down. So your pension expense went down as well. So that affected the general government expense, the public safety expense, actually pretty much all of them. All of the areas had been decreased because of pension expense decreasing. There were also some increases, though, in some areas, particularly in staffing for public safety and I think transportation as well. So that is what I have for that slide. Moving on to the next one. So this is the business type activities. So slides 6 and 7 were for regarding governmental activities. This one is for business type activities, meaning water, wastewater, environmental resources, golf course, and Oxnard Housing Authority. Let me mention once again that the Oxnard Housing Authority is not audited by E.D. Payne. It is audited by another auditor. We incorporated their report into the ACFR. So they provided us the numbers and the report. They also have a clean opinion, by the way. So all of the city has a clean.
Eden, excuse me, Eden, what was the explanation again from ER? The expenses were larger than the revenues. Was that because we had bought something? I can't remember what it was that we expended. I think it was equipment. I can't remember. Can you explain that?
So I kind of had forgotten as well.
I can't remember, but that had to do with, I think the purchasing of equipment when we came to our committee. But, okay, that's that. Michael, what was the, I think it had to do with the equipment that we bought, or it was, yeah, the trash trucks. I can't remember why Michael went.
Back in evening again, there are actually non-operational items accounted for, so maybe someone from finance can explain, like the depreciation. So this is not an operational number that's being shown up on here.
No.
So there's other things that get added to this, and so maybe someone from finance can explain the depreciation, the transfers that happen after the operational side. I think that's what's being accounted for.
Yeah, there was an explanation that was shared on that why the expenses were a little bit more than the revenues.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem and Council Member. I'm Beth Vo, the Assistant CFO of the Finance Department. So I believe the Mayor, what you alluded to was in ER. So what you're seeing there is a 43.3 million revenue compared to a 47 million expenditures. So aside from the operational expenditures, we also have the lease truck purchase that occur in this fiscal year. So what you're seeing there, it's not really an operational nature, but it is a capital purchase that's represented.
That's what I just wanted the public to know that. So
yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. I have forgotten that. Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's been a while since we issued it. So, okay. So,
Councilman Teran, you want to?
Yes, as soon as Eden is finished with this slide, I just have a quick comment about it.
Go ahead.
Would you like me to go now?
We're good.
Are you done, Eden, with this slide? I just have a comment when you're done with your points about it.
no, actually, I just started. So.
Okay, my apologies.
Okay. So if you look across all of these business type activities, you will see that the net position actually remained flat between 21 to 22. However, remember that last year, in 2021, the infrastructure use fee was reimbursed to these water, wastewater, environmental resources, so that they got like a big influx of revenue that year. So having a flat net position is, I think, a still good position, meaning that you did not really decrease based compared to last year. I mean, there was a decrease, but not a lot. So the lower utility fees also in this year, because of what you have decided to do in a couple of years ago, also impacted the revenue sources. So as you can see, like water expenses, probably stayed flat, but, your revenues went lower. So you have now the expenses exceeding revenue by almost $10 million. So that is something that you need to consider in the future.
We just had a study in that too, so.
So go ahead.
Councilor Sharon, go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you for that information. And that's actually to the point that I was going to make, is looking at our enterprise funds there, water, wastewater, and environmental resources. I think it's important for the public to note that those particular funds do need to be self-sustainable. And as the mayor alluded to just a couple Saturdays ago, we had a public study session around our water rates. And when you see it here in front of you that our expenses surpass our revenues, we do need to be able to have these funds be sustainable and be able to provide service and recover that cost of service as well, which is why we need to be able to do that process for the public. The second point I want to make is around the golf course, and it's been asked a number of times in the past about the golf course being its own fund and if it's operating in the black. And as we can see there, it absolutely is, at least for the fiscal year that we're focusing on here. So note that it is, for the public to see, it is operating in that it's covering its expenses and operating with a little bit of extra revenue as well by the operator. So thank you again. That's the points I wanted to make.
And just to add a little bit too that we spoke about at the committee is that those are self-supporting enterprises, which are really important. Thank you. Okay, let me
I'd
see.
also like to add that on the golf course, that tracks Tiger Woods' return to tournament play. The better he does, the better we will do. Thank you.
Councilor Perrella.
That's a good point.
Eden, we have one more, Councilor
Yes,
Perrella.
a question with respect to the environmental resources. The new contract that we have is not reflected in this audit, correct? The reduction in the cost of our trash going from Tolan to Simi? Or is it?
I don't believe so. That probably hasn't started.
That will be operating, right?
It depends on when that contract went into place. So I think this is fiscal year
22.
22.
So it should account for all the contracts in place at the time.
Okay, all right, thank you.
That's right.
That's my question.
Thank you, Mike. Go ahead, Eden.
Okay, so that actually ends the discussion on the government-wide financial statements. So we will talk about the general fund group now. So there are actually multiple governmental funds in the financial statements or the ACFR. They provide information on the short-term inflows, outflows, and balances of spendable resources of the city. It provides you, the fund financial statements will provide you with useful information in assessing the resources available to the city for spending, and also assessing the needs of the city for short-term financing. So like I said, the city has multiple governmental funds. The fund financial statements are located starting on page 28. There's like what we call 4 major funds. So the major funds are the bigger funds of the city, which includes the general fund, the Affordable Housing Fund, Development Fees Fund, and the State and Federal Grants Fund. There's also multiple non-major funds which are accumulated into or combined into one column in that governmental funds financial statements. So here we're only discussing the general fund group. The general fund group had a revenues of $221 million. and expenditures, and including net transfers of $183 million. So your revenues actually increased by 43 million, and expenses or expenditures decreased by 13 million. So that's a good thing. One of the things that was different this year is, last year you had the transfers from of the IUF fees down to the water, wastewater, and environmental resources fund. So that is included in the prior year, $196 million of expenditures. So this year we don't have that because that's already accounted for as an advance from the proprietary funds or business type activities. So now any payments that are made by the general fund to the water fund and wastewater fund and environmental resources, those are now offset against the advance that was reported in the balance sheet. They're still paying it, by the way. So revenues increased, actually most of the revenue items increased here: property taxes, sales taxes, transient occupancy tax, all those taxes did increase. Okay, so whereas last year it was 144 million, this year it's 198. So pretty good looking. Charges for services decreased a little bit. The receipt of COVID funds last year was recorded in the general fund group. This year, it's not recorded in the general fund group. So it's recorded in the state and federal grants. So what else? That's pretty much what I have for revenues of the general fund group, and unless you have additional questions. For expenditures, I know this slide looks very, very busy, but all I wanted to say here is that your expenditures, there was an increase in parks and streets, and that those are included in the culture and leisure and libraries. There was also an increase in public safety by around $9 million, mainly for personnel or labor costs and fire academy recruits. Those are the big things that happened this year. So that is pretty much what I have, unless you have any big questions there.
Well, Eden, I just want to thank you because, as I mentioned initially, we have a clean opinion, which is really, really important. So, and it was mentioned earlier, we want to thank the finance department, all the departments that worked on this item, which is really, really good news for all of us, and Measure E has really helped us tremendously with the revenues that we have now, and of course we also have some adjustments that we have to make in the future. But I want to thank you personally on this item. And council members, any additional questions? Councilman Peralta? Mm-hmm.
I have one question, Eden or staff. On page 138 of the presentation, if you could help me understand, it talks about notes receivable, and you had mentioned earlier potentially uncollectible on your slide 7, other investments. On page 138, we have the Oxnard Theater Group at $11,300,000. And then we have allowance for uncollectible of $11,300,000. Can you please help me understand what I'm looking at when I see
We
that?
have staff.
Ms. Vogt will answer the question.
No.
Good evening, mayors and council members again. My name is Beth Vogt, Assistant CFO. I can explain that. So basically, allowance for uncollectible are meant to be a contra type of reporting. It offsets something on your balance sheet. So in this case, the allowance for uncollectible is meant to offset the accounts receivable for the Oxnard Theater Group. Because of the agreement of the Oxnard Theater Group, as long as the operator, I believe, operate the theater for the entirety period of the operating period, which is 25 years, without financing or selling the theater and they remain in operations, that loan is forgiven. So that is the reason why we have to recognize the allowance for the probability of the collectability of that Oxnard Theater Group notes.
So if I understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong, if I understand what you're saying, as long as the operator of the downtown theater operates it the entire time of the agreement, doesn't sell it or stop operating it, the loan that is involved with that project of $11 million something is forgivable.
That's correct.
And
That's
we
that's the
write
truth.
that off when?
Once we get to the end of the agreement term, which is, I think, sometime in 2030.
Can you repeat the date again?
2030.
2030.
Thank you. That was my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let me see, any, Councilor Turan, come.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the presentation and all the work that's happened by staff on this. This is representative of probably hundreds of labor hours, not just by our auditors, but our financial staff in getting these items ready, overseeing them, making sure that they all come together so that they can be presented to the public and to this council. And one thing from the last slide of the presentation that was brought up that I just would like to reiterate is in looking at our expenditures between 2021 to 2022, note that we had an increase in revenues in the general fund, as was mentioned, and thusly we had an increase in expenditures in areas we'd been wanting to do more things but didn't have the capacity, the financial capacity to do. And so know that when there's talk around, audit findings, it's old news, as was mentioned at the beginning of the presentation. It's ancient history. And, I shouldn't say it's ancient history. It's certainly recent history, but it is history. And I hope folks know that living in the past is not recommended. It's probably a good place to learn from, but you shouldn't plan to stay there. And this city has not stayed there. We've moved forward, and I just really appreciate the work that our financial staff have done in getting us to this point, but also prepping this for the public to see. So thank you again for the presentation and all the information, and thank you to our staff for all their hard work. And those are my comments, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any speakers on this item? Either
Mayor Zaragoza, we have no speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Thank you. So we need a motion this item.
Oh, thank you. Mayor, may I have one more thing?
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. So I just wanted to say, I wanted to echo everybody's what they said there, that, we don't want to live in the past and we want to look at the present and the future. Just wanted to note on page 11 of the ACFR, S&P ratings of the city have gone up. The general fund is now from A- to A. Wastewater fund is from A- to A rating.
That's right.
Those are very good news. And the city issuer credit rating is A to A+. So those are really good news that I wanted everybody to know before we all end.
And Edom too, that plus gives us some discounts and not discounts, less interest that we have to pay when we borrow money, which I think is really important. Thank you for that. So this is a receiving file. Okay. Our next, go, Councilor Perrella.
But I'd like to make a statement.
It's a receiving filing. But go ahead, make your statement.
From the very first time when I was in the council, when Eden Payne came to work for the city of Oxnard, things have changed tremendously for the better. It's really great to be able to have survived long enough to experience that, because it's one heck of a lot better than it was. Through a lot of work and a lot of people's blood, sweat, and tears and sacrifice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eden and Payne. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item is item of Public Works. This is a carryover of encumbered funds from fiscal year 2021-22 and amend the budget appropriation for Public Works for fiscal year 2022-23. The recommendation is the City Council approve one, the carryover of encumbered funds from fiscal year 2021-22 to fiscal year 22-23 from the available fund balances in amounts of A, $957,184 to the general fund, 101. B, $332,001 to the wastewater fund, 611. And C, $115,181 to environmental resources fund, 631, due to supply chain delays. And 2, fiscal year 22-23 budget appropriation from available fund balances in the amount of $115,811 to the Special District Fund 120 for the new work and budget appropriation transfer of $7,300 from the General Fund 101 to the Special District Fund 120 to the general benefit contribution of applicable districts. 3, a fiscal year 22-23 budget unappropriation in the amount of $5,175,000 from the Water Bond Fund 609. The Finance and Governance Committee approved this item 3-0, and the Public Works Department Committee 2-0. And this item is not subject to the California Quality Act. And any questions? We have Michael here too. Any questions? Council members? Mayor Pro Tem?
Just a comment, I mean, it makes perfect sense with all the supply chain disruptions. What we're faced with is departments ordering items and then being told they're not available till 6 or 12 months down the road. And so it's just a matter of preserving those funds and allowing them to continue to be available. Typically in the spending process, when you order something, you encumber the funds at that time. And then if it doesn't show up, they just sit there until a later date. So that being said, if there are no other comments, I would approve the recommended action.
Is a motion?
Motion.
Mayor
Motion by-
Zaragoza, excuse me.
I'm sorry, speakers?
Any speakers or?
We do not have any speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Okay, we have a motion, one by Mayor Pro Tem and second by Perrell, but comments? Councilman Teran?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. One quick question for you, Mr. Wolf. And I know I asked this at Finance and Governance, but just real quickly, one of the items that is included in this, and there's a number of them, is the 2 patch trucks for potholes. If you wouldn't mind just very briefly sharing a little bit about those trucks and how they differ from just a pickup truck with asphalt in the back in the bed.
Sure, the patch trucks are very uniquely set up, manufactured, and placed in terms of its components to really easily facilitate pothole repair. It not only keeps the asphalt, but it has a heater box, so it'll keep the asphalt hot. It has places for all the pieces of equipment that are necessary for that pothole repair, whether that's the tacking material, the traffic control devices, all those things in such a fashion that it's set up to easily address that with a 2-person or 3-person crew instead of having multiple vehicles, multiple folks having to drive those vehicles. So this is a truck that's manufactured specifically for that operation so that we don't have to have basically open-ended trucks that don't have covers, that lose the heat for the asphalt, that kind of stuff. So it's really helps effectuate the process for that.
Great, thank you very much. And they were included with a number of items that appropriations had been set aside for them, but for a number of reasons as outlined in the staff report, weren't able to be attained. And I think Mayor Pro Tem said it well with the global supply chain issues that we have. I've had this conversation with a number of residents about why things aren't happening, even though they were asked for, or they were things that came to a public meeting. And oftentimes it does come down to this. I seem to recall at a Public Works and Transportation Committee meeting, there was like a 9-month to 10-month delay on the poles, the signal arms for traffic signals. And I mean, if we physically don't have them, we can't do the work. And the way I put it for people, what helps me, I don't know if it's an accurate analogy or not, but when you think back to the beginning of the pandemic when there was a shortage of toilet paper, didn't matter how badly someone wanted it, didn't matter how much money they had in their hand, it wouldn't make it magically appear on the shelf. And so if we, even though we've already encumbered some of these items and had them go through the approval and appropriations process, if we can't get them, if they're not physically there, the manufacturers don't have them ready, don't have their materials to put them together, or can't deliver them, we can't get them. Does that sound correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's my comments.
And we also had the same problem with the fire department with those trucks too. So we got a first by Mayor Pro Tem, second by Councilman Perrello. Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Wolf, can you just, I appreciate the explanation about the truck, and there may be something that people don't understand. Temperature is a big thing in getting a successful patch. The temperature of the ground, the temperature of the material, and the speed with which it's done. And can you just elaborate a little bit on that? If it's too cold, it doesn't work. If it's not hot enough, it doesn't work.
Yeah, we have certain parameters that we want to keep in terms of the temperature of the asphalt, the preparation of the ground before it receives the asphalt. We want to keep that temperature because it's consistency and pliability, and also in order for us to make that compaction occur, that it can't be to a certain degree temperature-wise, that it doesn't continue to allow that same malleability and pliability, and doesn't allow us to actually do the compaction as well. So there are certain temperatures that we want to keep that asphalt at. I don't remember off the top of my head what that temperature is. I think it's north of 300 degrees, but those kinds of temperatures are very important in terms of getting the final results of the compaction.
Because of after the rain, we do have potential for potholes to open up and getting them and taking care of our residents. You're doing a great job, in my opinion. Your whole staff is doing a great job with what we do. Thank you. Thanks for that explanation.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Okay, please vote. Again, first by Mayor Pro Tem, second by Councilman Perrello.
Motion carries 6-0.
Okay, thank you. Our next item is Housing Department. This is the authorize the Housing Director to execute home and CDBG loan agreements with People's Self-Help Housing for Cypress Place at Garden City, Phase 1, a 90-unit affordable rental housing project. Recommendations of City Council adopt a resolution authorizing the Housing Director to execute $1.6 million home loan agreement and another $1.5 million CDBG loan agreement and any other related documents thereto with People's Self-Help Housing for the construction of Phase 1 of Cypress Place at Garden City, a 90-unit affordable rental housing project located at 5536 and 5482 Cypress Road in Oxnard. Two, and find that the approval of the resolution and the acts authorized therein are exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, pursuant to Public Resources Code 21159.21 and 21159.23. And again, you know, this is a pre-recorded item, Measure M. We would have Mr. Ramirez for any additional questions. Council members, we might have at on this item. Mr. Andrade? No? None? Okay, any speakers on this item?
Mayor Zaragoza, we have no speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Okay, so we need a motion on this item.
So moved.
So moved by Mayor Pro Tem. Second by Councilman Perrello. Please vote. Boy, you're lucky today. Mr. Ramirez, how do you feel?
Motion carries 6-0.
Okay, thank you. Our next item 4, this is the Information Technology Department. Subject is 311 Performance Update. Recommendation the City Council receive a City of Oxnard 311 Constituent Relationship Management Performance Update for the period performance year 6 from May 1, 2021, through April 30, 2022, and the first half of the performance year, May 1, 2022 through October 31, 2022. And again, this the Community Service, Public Service Housing Development Committee approved it 3-0. And of course, this is a pre-recorded item under Measure M, and we do have Helen Miller for any additional questions, council members. Any questions?
Just a comment.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you for the report and the information. We did hear this at committee, and I think my one observation would be, if memory serves me correct, which it doesn't always do, but I think I'm close, there are about 15,000 subscribers to the 311 program, which is good, but in a city of 210,000 people, I would hope for some more positive numbers. And I say that because a lot of times I use the program to report stuff instead of trying to call around and figure out which staff member it should go to, and I get excellent response from the 311. And I don't think it's because they know who I am, because I don't use my full name. So it's a phenomenal program, has a lot of potential. And I guess if there would be any downside, we're so successful at it that we're cleaning up a lot of stuff that we wouldn't otherwise be doing. So it does increase the workload, but overall, it's an excellent program. And I don't know if there's a portion on the app that we can report the heaters underneath the dais here, but they're killing me.
So you don't use your full name, you just use Mayor Pro Tem, right?
Yeah. I'm not sure whose idea it was, but it's a rough one.
Okay.
Thank you for the information.
Thank you so much. Councilman Teran.
Thank you. Thank you both for the information. The presentation was insightful. I saw it last year and said, okay, I'm going to make mental notes for next year. And I'm happy to see many of our goals being not only met but exceeded. And that a lot of credit goes to each of the respective departments that do that work. But I want to thank your team for really coordinating all of this 311 stuff as well, because it's a pretty comprehensive system, it looks like. A couple questions I have regarding the measurement of downloads. Does that track for individual downloads, or does that also count people who've had to delete and re-download the app, as some folks had to do when the app was malfunctioning maybe a year and a half ago or so?
I'm going to introduce Helen Johnson, who is our interim GIS manager. GIS is Geographic Information Systems. And this team does the preparation and synthesis of the data that helps support the report. And there's also members from the individual departments who can also answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Helen.
Hi, so that 15,333 downloads does include people who've downloaded it multiple times as individual downloads. It's just a count of straight downloads. It does remove farmed downloads from certain countries based on certain statistics.
Okay, thank you. And then another question I had was regarding some of the goals. Let's see, I want to go back to, and it was specifically for our abandoned vehicles. And would our police chief be there for that? Okay.
Good evening, Councilmember Teran. We have with us Commander Mark Amon, who oversees our Patrol Support Division. He'll answer that question.
Okay, thank you. And maybe it's an obvious question or an obvious answer, but I just wanted to put it out there. When we look at the presentation and we see for abandoned vehicles, we have a goal of within 14 days we want to address that report. It looks like looking back longitudinally to year 1, year 2, year 3, et cetera, we've not only met that goal, we've exceeded it by doing it in less time than the goal was. I'm just wondering if we know at what point do we shift that goal, where if the average for year 7 was 7.5 days, do we now make the goal 6 days, to try and exceed that now, or is there some standard or reason that we keep it at the goal of being 14 days.
When we first set the goals, we felt it was a reasonable deadline, and we've decided to hold it there at this point, so we can always revisit it, but we didn't see a need to do that.
Okay. And I appreciate the info on that because you're certainly far exceeding the goal, which is really good. I know that as of recently, I believe there was an email I received that I forwarded to the District 2 Neighborhood Council chairs regarding abandoned vehicles and staffing challenges that were keeping them from doing it right away. But I'm happy to see, regardless, they've still been able to meet that even with those staffing challenges. So I appreciate members of the public who've been patient about it, but know that our folks who are in charge of this are not only working their best, but still exceeding goals on these reports. So thank you. Those are my questions.
Don't
Thank
we
you,
have
Chief.
an officer, was he?
Yes, did Commander
Mr. Mayor,
Amon-
that's Commander Amon, A-M-O-N. And I just wanted to take a moment and congratulate him on 27 years of service to the police department as he's recently announced his retirement.
27.
And he's launching off into a new career or a new adventure or whatever. But thank you for your service, Commander.
He must have started at 10 years old. It looks real.
His last day is March 20th.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Councilman Perillo?
I want to echo what Mayor Pro Tem said about 311 working fantastic. One of the things that I found interesting and helpful is when going to neighborhood council meetings, you ask for a show of hands, or even today, if there were members of the public in the audience, how many of you have 311 on your phone? It is amazing not that many people that have enough interest to go to neighborhood council meetings have the 311 on their phone. And it does make a big difference. But one of the other things that comes out, they will all point out the ones that have it on the phones and the ones that don't. Well, I put it on Nextdoor, or I put it on, Facebook, or I put this, or I put that. It's a simple thing to get 311 and make a complaint, and basically, well, there's another word you could say, but to basically make the complaint and get some action, get something to happen. Now, with the police and the vehicles, one of the questions that came up recently was the cars that park in alleys. There has been activity where cars that park in alleys are ticketed. Is that something that can be incorporated onto the 311? And I know that really can't be addressed here. It's not on the agenda, but just something, food for thought.
We can always add new requests to 311 as needed.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, very successful. This is one that's really proud to be an Oxnard council member. This thing really works, and it's quick. It's quick.
And before we go to Councilman Turan, I just want to mention that I've made some neighborhood council meetings, presentations, and they love 311. And by the way, Chief, your police officers are really, really good about that. They're there and they answer the questions, and 311 really works. So thank you for that. Councilman Turan?
I'm willing to allow my other colleagues to go first before I go again, if that's needed. No? Okay, Thank you. I just wanted to mention also, Councilmember Perillo reminded me that it is great to go to neighborhood council meetings and mention 311 and see the folks who use it and the people who learn about it from the word of mouth from their neighbors. And one thing I've been tracking is monthly the Public Works Department will release the Green Team report and the graffiti abatement report and the reports that come in through 311. And I will humbly note that for several months there, District 2 was, number one in report numbers for several months in a row up until recently when we've been in third place, I think the last 2 months, which that's still a great place to be because even though some folks may say, well, does that mean there's a lot of illegal dumping in your district? Well, I would counter with saying, I think that means there's a lot of people who are reporting the illegal dumping that's happening in our district. And when I see hundreds and hundreds of reports coming in, that's an indicator to me that there are people out in the public who have it and are using the system. And it's not just me, because for a while I was going out every Sunday and reporting all the graffiti and illegal dumping that would be in different neighborhoods throughout the district. And since the election, when I got more busy and doing other stuff, I haven't been doing it every Sunday, but I do it with regularity, but not to the degree I was. So that tells me that it's not all me. There are so many residents out there who are using the system. But I will say, I did ask about it, and I had like 530 reports or something to my account. So just saying, just throwing that out there. But I highly encourage folks to use it. It works great, especially for illegal dumping. It was amazing to see recently on social media, somebody had done what Councilmember Perillo mentioned. They said, oh, look at all this trash that's in this alley. And somebody took it upon themselves to report it for that person. And it wasn't just picked up the same day, it was picked up within like 2 hours. After it had been there for, I think, 2 months, the pile of trash. And
So it was an apartment complex.
it was, yes. And so the system really does work. I appreciate folks who use it. I hope everybody continues to use it. And thank you for tabulating and keeping track of all this data for us as well.
Madam Clerk, any speakers on this item?
Mayor Zaragoza, we have no speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Okay, Councilman Perillo?
Just a suggestion. We do print some neighborhood council flyers for meetings. Can we make it standard that we put how to put a 311 on those flyers? The flyers are distributed, and I think it would help because they're absolutely right.
That's
200
right.
and some over 200,000 and 15 regulars. Just something to consider.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm not part of that process, but I would love to see.
But it's good information, yeah. Thank you. Okay, so this is a receive and file, so thank you so much. Okay, our next item, the last item is item number 5, this Finance Department subject discussion of the State Auditor's 2021 Fiscal Health Ranking of California Cities. Recommendation the City Council receive the State Auditor's 2021 Fiscal Health Ranking of California Cities. And again, this item was presented to the Finance and Governance Committee on Jan 10, 2023. And this was a pre-recorded item. We have Denise Olson or
Mark Sewell.
Oh, go ahead. Dennis.
That's me.
Okay.
I'm Mark Sewell. I'm the Assistant Chief Financial Officer. I'm here to ask any questions.
Any questions? So we, no, yes, no? Councilman Turan?
I'll say comment.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I don't have no questions. Very good presentation overall, but this is just, to me, this is just another reason that I am really happy with this administrative team that we have because they're so transparent.
Thank you. Thank you.
So the good, the bad, the ugly, they're coming to us with it. So thank you very much.
Councilman Turan?
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Sewell, for the presentation. This is something that was brought up to me originally at one of the neighborhood council meetings for Wagon Wheel, where a member of the public had asked about the state auditor's report, and I had not had it come across my desk yet, and so he showed it to me, and I said, let me look into it, and brought it forward to our finance team, and I appreciate you all putting this into terms that's easy for the public to understand and really put context to this report. Because on its surface, someone can say, well, I thought the city was doing a lot better. You know, what is all this? And so to hear it in context and understanding exactly what this report's showing and what point in time it's looking at versus where we are now in 2023 is really important. So I'm wondering if you would just take a moment to share with the public just a little bit about the context of this report and some of the items that factored into the ranking and what we're doing differently now in 2023.
Yeah, of course, Councilmember Turan. So yes, this is the state auditors ranked Oxnard as number 8 in the state for most at risk of financial distress, which obviously makes a pretty big headline. We, as a city, though, are ranked as a moderate risk. And so there's about 5 cities in California that are ranked as a high risk. So there's a big population of cities that all have that same kind of moderate risk ranking. And it was taken at a point in time for June 2021. And of course, you've seen a presentation earlier by our auditors who've shown you kind of some of the remarkable changes between fiscal 21 and fiscal 22 with revenues increasing, expenditures coming down and the like. And so, you know, it's a snapshot where the state looks to try to look at nearly 500 cities and say, how can we compare them? And no 2 cities are really identical and the same. But what it's looking at are things like general fund reserves. How much money does the city have should there be an emergency or a need to really dip into your savings and continue operations? What are your revenue trends? What's your pension liability and all those kind of things? And so Oxnard really in fiscal 21 had a couple of one-time impacts that really made the score dramatically worse than it would be on any other ongoing basis. And I think when the new score for fiscal year 22 comes out in a few months' time, we'll all be pleased to see that we'll be moving more towards the pack. Still at moderate risk. There's still a number of fundamental financial challenges that any city of our size has, but we won't be in the top 10.
Great, thank you very much.
That's why I keep saying that we have the best city council that I've ever served with and the best staff we've ever had. Thank you to Mr. City Manager for the excellent work and the finance department. Councilman Perrella?
Thank you very much for the report. But just so in plain English, this is a report historically going back how much time compared to where we are right now? 1 year, 2 years?
So this report is about now 18 to 20 months old. It reflects the fiscal year ending 2021, June 30th, 2021.
So when people read, say, the top line of the discussion, ranking Oxnard as eighth most fiscally at risk, that's not the current picture.
I would say no, it is not, but that is the most recent
The recent
published
information.
report.
From
The-
recent
the
report.
next report that we're expecting in about 2 or 3 months' time will be based off of the results you've heard from earlier tonight, based on June 30th, 2022.
Will be
And
much
we've
better.
already seen the fundamentals on that report are much, much better. And so, yeah, I think the readers of that report will be pleasantly, not surprised, but pleasantly pleased to see that Oxnard will have improved.
And it's really important that we're transparent, which I think is really important.
Thank you, because it helps me understand, and sometimes I'm a little slow on that, but thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Any speakers on this item?
Mayor Zaragoza, we have no speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Okay, this is a receive and file. Thank you, and we are adjourned. Thank you.